What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on first take, thinking about talking about Carmelo Anthony and how apparently his name has been drugged through the mud in the NBA. So let's see what they have to say about that.
Carmelo Anthony has never been a locker room cancer. He doesn't speak abundantly off the record. He doesn't trust too many people. He doesn't violate trust. He's a rough rider in that regard as well. All of those things taken into consideration, I think is something that LeBron can do. But I would also like to add this, Max. I think Portland should be interested. I think Philadelphia should be interested. And from what I'm hearing, and I've been hearing this all morning since we did the segment over an hour ago, I'm hearing that there's chitter-chatter going on behind Melo's back. I don't know from who, but it's not players. It's coaches, it's GMs. And a lot of people don't realize that sometimes these coaches and GMs have the same reps as one another. So you say one person could say something and it can circulate because that clique is intact and they don't even know whether it's true or not. They're just going on word of mouth. It doesn't seem like
Carmelo.
Yeah, but it kind of seems like there has to be some type of truth to this if everybody's saying the same thing. So I've heard from a bunch of different sources that Carmelo Anthony, he would rather lose a big game, lose the main game and have an individual good game and be happy versus win the overall game and have a bad individual game. He'd be mad. So things like that you don't want to play with a guy like that. Plus his ego, he doesn't want to come off the bench. He doesn't want to be treated like he's not a starter or like he's not a superstar anymore. And just all that combined together, teams just don't want to deal with him. They don't want to deal with that. And it's not like he's a champion, like he's been to the finals or he's won a ring or two. He hasn't even won. So to have this type of ego, it's just nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody wants to deal with that. So let's continue.
Deserves to have his reputation smeared behind the scenes. If that's what's keeping him out of the league, it doesn't appear to me to be fair.
Right.
That said,
agree.
LeBron, sure, he put in a word for Carmelo, but only Carmelo can do for Carmelo. Mm-hmm. Now, what do I mean by that? He's still not completely getting it, Stephen A. The idea that a team needs to pay such special attention to their 10th best player, or the guy who's going to get the 10th most minutes on the team, that that guy's now willing to do X, Y, and Z. That's not how it works. If you're the 10th guy on the roster, you just show up, audition for the job, hope you get the job, and take what they give you. But Carmelo, because he was a superstar, of course he's used to the world not treating him that way. But if I'm running a team and I'm like, okay, the guy's not a good catch-and-shoot three-point shooter, he just hasn't been. And which is surprising, because he could shoot well, and he's not a defender. And it's so like, here's a guy who I think could get the most out of Carmelo and who Carmelo could probably help still. Popovich and the Spurs, right? They have a good track record at taking old, skillful players and putting them in the position to make contributions to winning efforts, right? But that takes an egoless kind of situation. So you think of the stars that most recently, Pau Gasol didn't get a ton of minutes and wasn't a great player anymore, but could be put in positions to make contributions. A team like that maybe Carmelo could work on. And clearly, he's better than guys riding benches for other teams. The difference is those guys it never occurs to them to say, I am now willing to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, no kidding. You're the 12th best guy on the team. Of course you take.
So, yeah, I think Max is right. So I definitely think that Carmelo is better than a lot of players in the league right now. But again, his ego gets in the way of him, coming off the bench and be treated like just a normal, a regular player instead of being treated like a superstar, which is not anymore because he's older and he's lost a step. And it really shows, again, it's not LeBron James' responsibility to get Carmelo signed to the Lakers or any other team, but it does kind of show that there's something going on there. If he'd signed Dwayne Wade to play with them in Cleveland, but he won't sign Carmelo Anthony to play with them. And Carmelo Anthony is easily better than a lot of players in the NBA, and he could definitely play for the Lakers. Even just coming off the bench, he can still play for the Lakers. But for LeBron James to not say anything or to not really pump him up and get him on the team, that means something. Again, that's not LeBron James' responsibility, but that definitely means something. So I don't know. I think Carmelo Anthony, he's scrambling right now to be playing with the team. He's scrambling to win a ring, and it's not looking good right now because ego pretty much screwed it up for him. So let's continue.
We give you.
Well, here's where you have a point without even realizing it. I don't mean that. I don't mean it disrespectfully in any way. No, it is a compliment, but he's making a point without even realizing it. Melo, you're not the star anymore. Well, what do stars usually do? They don't come with just themselves. They come with their team. They come with an entourage of people. You know, it could be just 2 or 3 people, but you got people that are flexing on your behalf, thinking that they have a level of cachet that they no longer have because you're no longer that dude. Sometimes you got to come by yourself and you got to let all of that go. Where I'm diametrically opposed to what you're saying is only in this one category. When you talk about Melo's got to come and work out and what have you, it's not like Melo is sitting at home saying, I'm Melo, you should call me. His agent has called. They've called the Clippers. They've called the Lakers. They've called Philadelphia. They've spoken to Portland. You got Damian Lillard, who's spoken up on Melo's behalf in the past, wanted Melo to come on 2 separate occasions. Melo elected not to go to Portland. That might have been a mistake on his part, depending on who you ask. Right now, from what I'm hearing, Terry Stotts has some reservations about Melo being in Portland. I don't know whether that's finite or not, but he does have some reservations, along with others. I got to wonder if there's anything at all that Mike D'Antoni is saying about Carmelo Anthony and whether or not that's having an impact. Or Daryl Morey after what Melo said about how things transpired in his exit from Houston. You just never know. So you got to think about all these things. But at the end of the day, could Melo help the Lakers? I think so. But I do think that somebody that just texted me made a very, very valid point when they said Melo coming alone, not with your team. That does matter.
Steven.
So I don't know about the whole team thing. But again, I think Melo has burnt too many bridges that nobody wants to deal with him. And again, I do believe he can play with probably just about any team. But the whole ego thing is really messing him up. I mean, it really is messing him up. And the whole LeBron James thing, again, that means something that he doesn't want to bring him on. And even Team USA doesn't want to bring him on. So, I mean, it definitely means something. It definitely means something. But let's continue.
And cutting through all the noise then we could come back to the alleged power of LeBron, right? So you said LeBron, they're friends. LeBron has advocated for him. I'm curious then, do you think LeBron has already tried to make a push for Carmelo Anthony? And if he didn't, why not?
I will say this to you. In fairness to LeBron, I do not know, because I did not ask this question. I did not ask, so I don't know. But I don't believe that LeBron has prioritized going to the Lakers and saying, I want you to bring Melo to the squad. I don't believe he's done that. I don't believe he's done that.
That would be very interesting.
I think the same thing too, because I think LeBron James has enough pull that he could at least get them there. He could at least get Carmelo Anthony on that squad. I can definitely see that happening, and it definitely has that feel that, you know what, your boy's probably not pulling for you, and there's a reason for that, because LeBron James probably knows what the scuttlebutt is about Carmelo Anthony and the way his behavior is and the way his ego is, and you might not want to bring that in, especially LeBron James and Lakers have enough issues that they're trying to sort out. You won't have to deal with the old superstar that hasn't realized that he's lost a step, or does know he lost a step, but doesn't want to come off the bench. That's just another problem you don't want to have to deal with. So I think that's why LeBron James is kind of being, kind of standoffish about it. And really, Carmelo Anthony should be a good friend if they're good friends, and not put it on LeBron James and ask LeBron James to use his pull to get him on the team, because LeBron James may not want to do that, and that can cause a problem between their friendship if Carmelo Anthony asks LeBron James for, you think you hook me up, get me on a team, when he might not want to. It's one of the situations where you have to know your friends. You should be able to tell, I better not ask him because he probably might not want to do it. So don't put him in that type of situation to have to say no, or to not give you the full push to have you come onto his team. So I don't know, but let's continue.
If that was the case.
Yeah, he should look out for his guy.
They need a big first cover. Lakers need a big first.
Right, he should look out for his guy, and Carmelo shouldn't be unfairly drummed out of anything. He should be getting in and out
LeBron
on the merits.
did speak up for him last year when his name was being smeared.
Right, but LeBron is chasing a championship. In those situations, even a marginal player who may contribute in a certain way, like what can Quinn Cook do? Shoot the lights out, right? Like you don't want to burn a roster spot just to do a favor for a guy. Right. You want to know that guy can help you win a championship. And by the way, D'Antoni, if D'Antoni has anything to do with it, I'll say this. When Jeremy Lin when Lin Sanity was in New York, and I heard chirping, oh, Carmelo's a ball stopper. It's better off without him. I was telling everyone they were nuts. Carmelo's never been in a situation in New York with a winning team. Watch what's going to happen when Carmelo comes back. I was supporting him. Guess what happened? The ball stopped, and D'Antoni couldn't run his offense. That happened. So if now at this point in Carmelo's career, GMs are maybe wary of remember how it was when we were like, no, we want to play differently, and there was an unwillingness to fully put your spirit into it. That you reap what you sow.
Melly, Max, I think that it's incredibly important, and this is the last point because I know we got to go. It's incredibly important that if somebody like Melo doesn't have a spot amongst 450 players, that the reason is highlighted as to why that is. I'm talking about by the teams. If you're a team and you sit up there and say, look, it's a difficult proposition to have a coach for us looking on the edge of the bench from the 10th to the 15th rotation with Carmelo Anthony sitting there. He's Carmelo Anthony. We can't do that to him. That is an easy sell as to why you wouldn't have Melo on your team.
That's why people like Royce White are reacting this way. You know why?
But there's no excuse. There's no excuse to sit up there and act like he's not as talented, one of the top.
Well, it's probably because that's not the reason. It's that they're not picking up Carmelo Anthony because they don't want to have to tell him to come off the bench. They don't want to pick up Carmelo Anthony because he has a huge ego, and you don't have to deal with them crying and complaining about coming off the bench, for one. And for two, for the whole situation about him being worrying about padding his stats versus the team and having the team win. That's probably what it is. So I wouldn't say that no NBA team wants to say, oh, Carmelo Anthony, we just don't want to take you because we don't want to have to deal with, we don't want to have to face you and tell you have to come off the bench because you were such a good player and the league owes you so much. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the other side of what Stephen A. Smith is saying. It's the bad side, not what Stephen A. Smith is saying. So let's continue.